Early Morning, Chapter 4. A Miraculous Ladybug Fanfiction written and narrated by Mira Rose. Artwork by Cat Saturn Art on Instagram. You can find a link to Cat Saturn in the description box below. Don't forget to go give them lots of love. Now then, if you haven't heard the previous 3 chapters of the story, you can find a link to it in the description box below. If you're tired of hearing me say that, just go right ahead. We already know you're subscribed. Hit that like button and leave a comment in the comment section. If you aren't subscribed, prove me wrong by subscribing, by hitting the subscribe button and the bell for notifications. If you don't know what to comment, put Adrien's Tea Store. Now then, please enjoy Early Morning, Chapter 4. Adrien Agrest, 3:45 a.m. Thank you, Adrien typed, sighing as he sat on his bed. No problem. Hang in there, Cat. Adrien stared at Alia's reply, still feeling like he was in another dimension. Conversations just before dawn's early light weren't real, or at least they didn't seem like it. He rubbed his eyes, grateful for the few hours of sleep he got, but still tired for more. Knowing it wouldn't do any good to fall back asleep, Adrien rolled out of bed and trudged downstairs to his still dusty tea store. Another day, another cleaning session. He'd learned a lot about Wang Fu as he cleaned rooms out one by one, and for a man who had so many books on inner peace and tranquility, you'd think he'd have less stuff. Could Adrien get this work done faster? Yes, of course he could, but he would go through every nook and cranny in this building, room by room, book by book, until he found an answer to Guardian Amnesia. Sure, Master Fu suffered from it as well, but if there were going to be an answer, it would be in the mass accumulation of miraculous memorabilia and heritage he'd collected over the last century and a half, right? At times like these, Adrien wished he could call up the Order or another sector of the Guardians for answers, but after everything went down, no one would recognize him, Cat Noir, as the new Guardian and refused to share secrets with him. Pushing back old canisters of tea in the room he used as an office, Adrien stretched for a small box at the far end of the shelf and pulled it to his chest. Soon, little bug, he whispered, rubbing his thumb over the embossing. I'll figure this all out soon. He put the box back, angling the canister in front of it accordingly. She was just another one. He was failing. Adrien knew he shouldn't be so hard on himself, but it felt like the only thing he'd done right as Adrien Agrest was buy this building. Everything else that was good had to be done with a mask on. There was kind of an irony to it, but he couldn't quite put it into words. At the very least, he still had Alia and Nino. He couldn't have made it this far without them. Well, no, he could have. It just would have taken him longer. He'd made it through every day so far since Ladybug's last, and he'd make it through today too. He'd transform this massage parlor into a tea store while he's at it. Cat lied to Marinette when he said this was an old tea store, but sometimes lies protect people. Her parents knew Ladybug's origin story now and would know what he meant if he said they were training at an old massage parlor. But thankfully, there were enough old canisters of tea lying around that he could blur the story just enough to avoid suspicion. Nobody would put together that Adrien Agrest lived in a rundown building like this, and now that he wanted to make a name for himself outside of his father's shadow, starting a tea store seemed like a silver lining to what had been an otherwise heartbreaking year. Adrien heard a knock from the storefront and sighed, feeling knots from cleaning untwisting themselves as butterflies awoke in his stomach. She was here, and he found himself grateful that a magical transformation would take care of the grime on his hands and shirt. Come on, Plague, he said as he weaved around boxes. Claws out. Hey, Marinette said, tackling his chest with a hug as he opened the door. Good morning! Cat stumbled a few steps back as her arms locked behind his neck. Yeah, hey, he said, swallowing his reaction. Morning, Marinette. I wasn't sure if you'd be here yet, she said, pushing herself off him and twisting her gym bag to the front. Ready to spar? Actually, we're not going to today. Marinette raised her eyebrows before twisting her lips and jutting her chin out. I'd say I'd fight you for it, but that's literally what you're trying to stop. No. He led her through the threshold into the kitchen, grabbing a kettle to fill as they spoke. I wanted to go over key battles with you. Key battles? You're trying to learn who you were, right? What better way than to go through what happened? I've watched basically all the Ladybug offers, she sighed, tossing her bag onto the table and collapsing into a chair. Yes, but the Ladybug can't offer you me. Cat moved the kettle from the spout to a burner. You? Yeah. I figured today, while you stretch, because I know you didn't do that after you left yesterday, I could talk you through my side of the story, post by post. How is that different than a regular story time? Do you want me to do it or not? He called her bluff, and it worked. Marinette gnashed her teeth and sucked in air. What kind of tea? Today, it's a mix of currants, raspberry leaves, and strawberries. Fruity again? The taste might be a bit off-putting. We rarely eat currants, so our tongues aren't used to them, but if you drink enough tea, you'll grow to like the flavor. Dried currants and strawberries? She questioned. Yeah. His ladybug tea. You like it with cranberry juice. Oh, so I've had it before. Someone who loved you very much mixed it up for you as a thank you present once. Really? Oh! Cat felt his heart sink as he caught the slip of tongue. He couldn't tell her it was from him as Adrien as a thank you present for the Valentine's Day presents she handmade for all her friends. A fan. He turned his back to her and scooped out 3 teaspoons of the tisane mix for the infuser, hiding his face. Well, that was nice of them. What's the mix called? Cat bit his lip. All at once, it was too much for him. Everyday Ladybug, he choked out, opening the cupboard to grab cups. Everyday Ladybug, Marinette repeated. Well, that's ironic. Yes, the irony is astounding. Well, I hope I like it again a second time. Cat stared at his mix in the infuser before cranking the burner higher, waiting for the water to boil. I hope you do too. As Marinette sipped the tea that used to mean so much to them, Cat Noir opened their session with the first day they met, bad jokes and all, with a narrative that no one else could know. If only he could do the same thing with the story between her and Adrien Agreste, but he'd messed that up multiple times. No, some things are past repair, and his daydream of her finding out who he was became that of a nightmare. But what about the last battle? Marinette asked as Cat finished his recollection of the first Mr. Pigeon. Oh, you mean how many times he got akumatized? 100. No, Cat. When are you going to tell me about my last battle? He swallowed hard, knowing he didn't have a suitable response despite trying to come up with one for months. Not yet, little bug. Marinette sighed into her mug. Can you at least tell me why? Huh? That wasn't what he expected. Can you tell me why you keep dodging the question? I mean, even Alia shies away from Ladybug topics, and I thought we were supposed to be best friends. Sure, I don't remember her, and she probably feels awkward about it, but shouldn't a best friend be more... I don't know. She waved a hand in a circle above her head. Best friend-like? That was his fault, too. Someday, when this house of carefully placed cards came crashing down, he'd face her wrath in full. But for now, he could only give her empty words. People change, he said, finishing his cup of tea. At times like this, it makes me wish I had a diary or something. I used to be so detail-oriented to fight my klutziness, but I can't find something like that anywhere. He would have to ask Alia about that. She was the one who straightened up Marinette's room before they decided they'd tell her she was the missing superhero ladybug that she watched on the news in her hospital bed during that first month. Oh, if he could redo that first month again, he would. If he could redo that Akuma fight again, he would. He'd lost so much energy to what-ifs and time machines, there was no use in contemplating it further. They were stuck in this timeline and had to make the best of it. As long as we're here, would you like breakfast? Cat asked, noticing the clock tick itself to 6:30. We've talked for nearly an hour? Wow, yeah. Breakfast sounds good. What can I do to help? Finish your stretches. He got up and wandered to find the cast iron he saw earlier. It seemed well taken care of, so he'd scrub it down with some salt before he started. Shuffling through the fridge, Cat grabbed some eggs and a bit of Plag's cheese supply and set to work, grateful for the spices Nino bought him when he found out he left his father's house. With a miasma of feelings attacking him, Cat Noir did his best to open himself to the opportunities the morning would offer him. It was just a terrible year, not an awful life. That's how Ladybug would view it, at least. Yeah, it might be a fight, but he'd do his best to enjoy this morning with Marinette. Some days, that's all you can do after wrestling trauma and the guilt that comes with it. Thank you so much for listening. Chapter 5 is on the way. If you're still listening and haven't subscribed, please do so. Woohoo! We love channel support, and smash that like button. If you're feeling extra generous, don't forget to leave a comment. And because you listened all the way to the end, put Everyday Ladybug to show that you made it this far. I will catch you in the next one. Bye!